there's not gonna be a park. It's plain and simple, right?
That's correct, but
So,
in
are we
order,
considering that?
my opinion states that here's where we're at. I'm prepared to put a levy on it. I mean, if that's what this community wants, then that's what needs to happen. We'll put a levy on it. It's up to the committee to get that levy passed. I mean, the board of trustees cannot go out and promote the levy. We can put it on the ballot. And like I said, I think come November, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it would even cost us any money to put it on the ballot this November, because I think we're gonna have some other issues on there already. So it would not cost us anything to put it on, is that correct?
What's the AARP date that we have to have that money spent by?
25.
25.
So it would be smart to
The
put
end
it
of
on the ballot,
25.
December
and
26th.
then if it doesn't pass, then we can move on with that money.
What's that?
If we put it on and it doesn't pass, that means the community is not willing to pay for it, and we can move on with that money before we lose it, correct?
Yeah, but Brandon, do you really wanna move on and try to get that horse across the finish line when the community doesn't want it? I mean,
We
can
have a
spend-
deadline though,
We
to
can
spend
spend
that
that
money.
money wisely other
No, what
places.
she's saying is you put it on the ballot, if it passes, you're good. If it fails, you pull your art money and allocate it somewhere else.
Because that money has a deadline, and we're gonna lose it if we don't, so
Believe me,
why
we ain't
sit
gonna
on
lose
it?
We know how to spend money.
I know, but that's how we can determine, are we gonna keep beating a dead horse with the park, or are we gonna move on? I'm all for the park, I just feel like it's a,
Well, one
That's
thing
the main
I'll
thing.
guarantee you,
community
Brandon,
wanna pay for it.
you're gonna have to go to Hubbard for splash pads because.
I don't
we
want a
have
splash
those
pad,
big
I'm
numbers.
for Rex on
Yes,
this
we'll
one.
not go for
I don't
splash
even go to
pads.
the other communities for splash pads.
Yes, Jason.
Okay, so,
Wait a minute, before we get started into that, let's, go ahead and finish up with, the old business and then we'll go into public comments. Is that all right, fellas?
Yeah, give us a minute.
If you would, please, I'm sorry, Jason.
Okay.
On the park thing, guys, I'm gonna continue to move forward with, suggestions and recommendations and trying to get money for over there at Central. Any objections to that? Okay, thank you. Now the update on the architect for the, building for the road department. Is there any update on that?
Yeah, I talked to Tim Sexton today, and we both agreed that this project should probably be at the point of bid. And, you know, I asked him if he would be available to attend our workshop. And what day is that? Is that the 16th?
15.
15th? And well, he was okay, right, 16th, by the way. I'll call him and see if it's 15th. But,
Just tell me you heard you wrong.
yeah, just, you know, he needs to provide us a estimated project cost, and we gotta get off dead center on this project too. You know, he's throwing out $100 per square foot, and that's typical. I think that's a little heavy, but nonetheless, $100 per square foot, we're at $480,000 just for the,
Total was 16th?
yeah, it's gonna, I call it the 15th.
It is the 16th.
He said the 15th.
I thought it was, my bad.
Okay, then okay.
16th is Tuesday.
Yeah, 16th, right?
Yeah, it's 16th.
So he'll be here at the 16th to discuss that, and hopefully we can move forward with that project, so. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, now we're gonna move, thank you, Rex. Now we're gonna move to public comment. Jason, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but.
Oh, I got one more old
Oh, I'm
business
sorry.
real quick.
Go ahead, Rex.
Mr. Bessie asked about widening these lanes down here at 305, because of all the traffic experienced, don't be smiling. During, school times and when people are going to work. And this is the response. We performed a left turn study which looked at the capacity and safety performance of both intersections in 2022. No capacity issues were identified in the AM, mid, and PM design hours. A rear-end crash pattern was identified, but the location is not eligible for safety funding since the injury rate is less than 30%. We are currently not pursuing any improvements at either intersection. Thanks, Aaron Conley.
So we need a bunch of people to go down there and get maimed in that intersection, and then maybe we can get it done. It's ridiculous. when you put that
Can we
way.
trade in the crosswalks for?
So anybody that's willing to kamikaze down there, feel free.
Is that why you got the, planning strips down there on 45?
Yeah.
I can send a copy.
So they did a study on their own.
2022, ODOT did, yeah.
They would have to, sir, to make that.
In the summer, when the school buses are parked in their
I don't know when they did it, but they must have done it during COVID.
Come out of Durson, when you
Yeah,
see that
really.
thing on there, just keep going back and forth.
Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Now we're gonna go to public comment. Jason, I'm sorry. Floor is
Yeah,
yours.
Jason Kish, 5110 Sabrina Lane. Yeah, so I was the one that was being addressed as the person who was giving inaccurate information on Facebook, although not brought by name. So I guess the first thing that I'll say is nobody has brought up a splash pad or fitness facility in a long time. So I feel like those are straw man arguments, which is an indicator that this is not something that you want to accomplish. Because the things that people are bringing up are not really the argument. I know we've talked about how expensive a splash pad is a bunch of times, and that's something that scares people. But a splash pad's not on the table,
So-
nobody expects it, nobody thinks
Not
that's
to
gonna
interrupt
happen.
you,
Yeah, there are.
but you know what my conversations were with the constituents of this township, right?
Not recently, not on that
So,
Facebook
you're
post where
saying
there
there
were
was no
80
mention
comments.
of that, and I'm sitting here telling you that you're dead wrong.
You said on that Facebook post
I am
with 80
referring to the
comments,
whole
and there were
thing.
none.
I am referring to the whole thing, Jason.
Okay, so I'll move on to the
Because
next.
you gotta understand something, when you guys put something like that online, our phones are the ones that are gonna ring, not yours.
And they should.
Especially if you're gonna post as an anonymous.
If it's
I
gotta
don't
put your
post
name
as
out there.
anonymous, for the record.
I didn't say you did, I'm saying whoever started that post posted it as an
Do you know what the
anonymous.
Like
problem
months
with that
ago?
post was? You know what the problem? You had three questions. Do you wanna park? You don't wanna park? Do you wanna levy? What did you expect for answers, Jason?
Okay, hold on a second, I'll
It should
get
have
to that in
been,
my public
it should have
comment.
been, you wanna park with the levy, or you don't wanna park? That should be the only two choices.
I'll answer that in my public comment. So you mentioned that we don't, so you said that it was inaccurate to say that we pulled funding from it. But then the next thing is that we don't have 30K to match to get the 70K to make 100K. So we have, as of right now, if that post is inaccurate and we still have it earmarked, we have $250,000 plucked from ARP,
Yep.
earmarked for it. That's what the last motion was
Yes,
for.
we did.
Plus 54,000 from the thermometer
That's
fund,
correct.
making $304,000.
Right.
So what we could do is spend 150,000 on a park and have 154,000 in a maintenance fund. Or we could take 150,000, put it toward a park, put 100,000 toward that garage, and still keep the thermometer part as maintenance, 54,000 to maintain 150,000
So,
improvements.
When
So
that
there
money,
are
when that money
options
runs
if
out,
we wanna do
Jason,
it.
where do you want the next batch of maintenance money to come from?
The next.
So do you go buy a house and only plan on paying maintenance on that house for 3 years? Or do you make sure that your finances are in line? No, that's what you're saying. Set $150,000 aside for maintenance. What do you want us to do when the $150,000 is gone?
So how long do you think something takes to maintain? Like if I had $54,000 to maintain a $150,000 house that just got built, I'd be really disappointed if that fund ran out in the time that you're on the board of trustees, which, isn't a real long term. So as of right now, we have play structures and there are things that need to be fixed. There aren't levies for every single thing that is devaluing in the township. There's not something for everything. But here's what I wanted to say though,
That's why we're broke.
is if I was inaccurate in saying that you are pulling the funding from the park, how much funding are you going to give in this park? How much are you going to spend on it? You said you've taken it as far as you can. You can spend the money and make the park, since you already have the money earmarked for it, you're going to spend it.
Yes, we can.
We can also rescind it.
We can also rescind it.
Yeah, you can rescind it, but you're saying that you've taken it as far as you can. So if you gave a committee, if you said, hey, you guys have a budget of 50,000, 100,000, 200,000, and you give the property, if you give the parameters, then you could have a committee that could do something. But as of right now, if I was to be in a committee and you don't want to spend the money, I'm not going to convince you to spend the money, even though we have the money earmarked, and we could earmark
I
funds
didn't
that we
hear-
already have.
I didn't
for
hear
maintenance.
anyone sit up here and say they don't wanna spend the money, Jason. I never
You
heard
have,
that.
yeah,
Did you hear that, Rex?
No.
I never heard it.
well, we could rewind it back to the beginning of the tape when you said it.
When I said what? That I don't wanna spend the money?
That we're not going to spend the money on the parks because of the police.
What
fire,
I am
and
saying,
roads, which are
I never,
extremely
no,
expensive.
that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you are going to see levies for police. You are going to see levies for fire. Without those, you're gonna lose services in those departments. Maybe not this year, I guarantee you next year. We will see our way through this year. Costs continue to skyrocket. What I'm saying is this. I am not in favor, now let me reword this, maybe it'll make you happy. I am not in favor of pulling the money that has been allocated to the park at this moment. I'm a no vote on that. I'm one guy, but I'm a no vote. What I will say, and I have said 100 times tonight, I've said it in the past, I said it to you. If you want a park, put a committee together and get it moving. I can't do that for you. I
If
won't
you give
do
me the
that for you.
parameters, I will head the park in front of all these people, in front of anyone that can
What do
watch
you need for
YouTube.
parameters? What is it that you want?
The budget and location of the park.
It's here. You just showed it to Tom. You've seen it.
The $1.4 million one that we're not going to do.
There is phases of that right here that you've seen. I've seen you look at it.
So what is the committee allowed to make decisions on? Because you already know what you
The
would spend
committee
that
is
money on.
allowed to do whatever the committee wants.
The big thing of this committee is selling this community on a park with the possibility of following park levy. And Jason,
Not a
you're
possibility.
$150,000
Guaranteed.
towards the park?
You gotta be honest
That
about
isn't a
it.
drop in the bucket. Do you realize costs of construction?
I do.
And prevailing wage?
I do.
This parking lot here is close to 100 grand. Your 150 isn't gonna get nothing. Isn't gonna get nothing.
Give me the budget. And
The budget is whatever the levy is. That's the budget. We have money set aside. But the budget to do this is totally dependent on how big, do you want a mill? Do you want 2, 3, 4, 5, 10? That's the budget. That's the budget. That's the point of the committee. That's the thing. That's it. And if you don't want that, then you don't. Once again, you're making this sound like we're sitting up here preventing you guys from having a park. Nothing further from the truth. I'm not preventing you from having anything. I am telling you, if you want a park, put together a committee, bring it to us, we'll put it on the ballot. If it fails, I'm out. If it passes, I'm in. But I can't do anything without that. I can't take $150,000 of ARP money and hold it back for maintenance. Because when that ARP money runs out, the feds might not be standing around the corner with another $1 million check for me. Matter of fact, I want to pretty much guarantee they're not going to be there. They're not going to have my back. So when the parking lot falls apart in 10 years and it needs retop, and Sean's sitting over there saying the parking lot needs $220,000 to fix, I don't have 220 grand. That's how fast it escalates. What do you think it's gonna cost just to blacktop and fix the central school parking lot? Sean, give me an estimate. You're in the game,
60, 70?
60, 70 grand. You wanna put together, you wanna set aside 150 grand to maintain something. One shot, 70 grand. One thing. Come on, be realistic about what it is that you're saying.
I feel that I'm being realistic about this. If it takes, I just think that there are a lot of things that we have in this township that we don't have a levy protecting, so to speak.
Like what?
For the maintenance. Well, like the current playground that we have there. Are we really going to be a town that has 0 playgrounds for our kids?
Do you know how much a playground costs?
Yeah, about 250,000. You guys are acting
That-
like I haven't been here for 10 months in these meetings,
That
time
is,
in and time out, having
that
these
is an
discussions.
average one. That is just a
know.
podunk
I've been here.
playground, $250,000.
Yes, yes.
So,
This isn't my first
let's order
week.
one.
No, let's get to.
This isn't my first week, and the only thing we've done is we got the budget from 300,000 to 250,000, and that's what's been accomplished in 10 months.
Can I say something?
Yeah.
In 1 second, please. I'll get to you. Go ahead, Jason, I'm gonna give you two.
But yeah, no, I've taken up enough time. I just wanted to make those couple points that there are ways to move forward with this. And we don't need to use the straw man anymore about the splash pad or about the fitness center, because those are multi-million-dollar projects that we're never, ever going to do, even if we have a few.
Well, here's
million
the
dollars.
problem with
We
that.
might as well
Those
not-
projects, when it comes to this park, might not be important to Jason Kish,
They'll never happen.
but they might be important to Ronnie. They might be important to Tom. Doesn't Tom have the same say that you do? How about John? Does John have a say in this, or is this all gotta be Jason's way?
John
Do we
knows
need a
that.
walking path? Because that's what Jason thinks we need. And we don't need anything other than what Jason thinks we need. That's what the committee's about also. It's not up to me. It's not up to Rex, and we're not telling you you can or cannot have
Jason, I
anything.
proposed a fix to this, to get a footprint established. In fact, that was the reason to set aside $250,000. We get the soccer fields up there, we get the sanitary sewer run, we get the parking lot, we get the storms retention basin. And that storm retention basin has to be sized not only for that parking lot, but what other impervious surfaces for the entire park. So it's gonna be oversized initially. And that's the footprint. And again, that would be a start for succeeding boards of trustees to take a look at and add to and try to secure grants from. And because you have that footprint, you're gonna get a few extra points when they review the grant application and say, oh, they have one started. We'll help them out and get phase two done, whatever, you know? And I am trying to get a grant through the Appalachian grant. And you know what's so frustrating, Jason? I got a call the other day. You know what it is? They got a group of people that they have to determine if the project is, ready for this?
Shovel ready.
Transformational, okay? Now who decides that? Guess who's gonna get that? It's gonna be the Mahoney River Corridor, and it's gonna be the big
Whoever else gets on that
municipalities,
list.
the cities, because you know why? The politicians are going for the votes and where the nucleus of all the voters are, and the townships are caught holding the bag. That's how grants work. It goes to the center of the populace, and everybody else to hell with you. And that's the way the politicians work. Look what we did for you. Look what we did for the city of Warren. Well, we satisfied 48,000 residents in the city of Warren. How about Gerard? What do you need? You know, that's the way it works. I've seen it. I've been in it for 35 years. That's the way it works.
And who's in charge of these grants, Rex?
Eastgate.
Eastgate.
Eastgate. And you know who's backing the
Who's
Mahoney
backing?
River Corridor?
Who's doing
Eastgate.
it? Oh,
They're
Eastgate.
submitting all the
Okay.
paperwork for that
Shock.
particular project. And we're caught, what do we do here? Well, you know, and guess what? We're not gonna get anything, because it's not according to them.
And if we do.
It's transformational for Champion Township and surrounding communities. but not in Mahoney River Corridor, the Gerards, the Warrens, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they're doing.
Hmm?
Jimmy Latimer, go ahead, you got
I'll stand up. Jim Latimer, 1025 Prentice. I came in midway through. I just want to verify a few things from each one of you three. Doug, since you did the most speaking on the part. So I'm hearing, in other meetings, I'm hearing from you, you don't want to put any additional funds into the current old central space at all. Just the bare maintenance. to keep-
We are putting money in that facility as we speak. Okay?
But you don't want to do any, I think, Bill, please forgive me if I'm misquoting you, you've proposed a couple pickleball courts and other things, right? You don't want to do any of that. You would prefer to go over to this space in back of us.
I have a problem putting funding into the central property that's already, number one, cramped, and number two, I mean, Rex is an engineer, what's it gonna cost to do sewer tap-ins and stuff at Central?
Based on projected flow, and it's just based on the number of kids during, peak summer hours, and that, it is what it is. They attach so many gallons per, kid that plays soccer or
Well, that's it.
parents.
So here's my thought on this. When you look at the big picture of the Central School property, what are we dealing with here? We're dealing with a beat-down parking lot that's trashed. We're dealing with a yard, because it wasn't a soccer field, it was just a yard. It was baseball fields when I was a kid, I played baseball there when I was a kid. We're dealing with trashed playground equipment, you know, at least that's what they say on Facebook, I don't know, maybe it's not true. It's gotta be true, it's on Facebook. So, we're dealing with trashed playground equipment. So what is it that's so attractive about the Central School property? And that property today, as it sits, is one thing, but as we apply for more grants, which we do, if a grant comes in for one phase,
That's a big if, though. I mean,
no, it's not
I went
as
to
much.
that
Here's the
discussion on
thing,
that property
lightning's
out here on
gonna hit
top.
us sooner or later. We're applying for grants every year. Sooner or later, we're gonna get one, right?
Hold on a lot.
I mean, sooner or later, we have to get one.
Right.
Because we've never been awarded much of a grant. We
Okay.
get small grants because of our median income. That's the fact of the matter here.
So you don't
Rex
want,
is also right, you get grants to big voter turnout, big voter bases. We have about 10,000 residents here. I bet you half of them are registered voters. You got 5,000 votes here, maybe 6, maybe 7,000 on a good day. But that number's low, so our voice isn't heard as well. So my thought is this, Jim. There's really nothing attractive about the Central School property at this point. It's landlocked and it's cramped. And if you put any administration, fire, and police buildings on it, that property that's available for the public to use gets smaller. It's already cramped. So, do you wanna invest any money over there, or do you wanna start moving towards something that gives you room to grow? Not today, not tomorrow, but over the next 40 years.
okay.
Lord knows I won't be sitting here, but maybe Jason will. Maybe you will. I don't know who will be sitting here, but if you dump anything in that Central School property, that's it.
Rex,
You're
do you
out
feel that
of
way too?
space.
Do you feel the same way that Doug does about putting the thermometer fund money over there and any art money? Do you, or is that your opinion too? Do you rather put all that money into a new location that's been talked about in Baker Bender and Snyder report? Is that what you prefer to do?
Well, you know,
I'm putting you on the spot,
I-
in case you didn't know.
no, I
Because I'm
hesitate,
curious, I wanna know where you guys
I
stand.
hesitate to say, you know, I was a civil engineer, cause I heard from these guys all the time.
You were what?
But I'm a guy that
A has to fit into B. and then
prefers
B.
to go by studies. You know, we turned how many thousands of dollars to Baker Bednar, this is what they do. And Doug was right in his presentation, they've looked at a number of acreage parcels within this township to determine where this would be best suited. they determined this over here is. It has the sanitary sewer, it has the water, has the access off Mahoning Avenue. The elevation is good. Initially, we were concerned about wetlands. That's been delineated and we're fine there. We can partner with Metro Parks in trying to secure grants. And that would include a spur to the bike trail through the back there.
Yeah.
And again, my thoughts were that if we could get a footprint started with our money, so that succeeding boards can work off of that and secure grants, and who knows, at that time, and my thoughts of a levy are, you might want to pass a levy for phased construction. You know, it might be a 4 or 5 year levy that you can put this phase in a year and a half, and then you have more money, and you complete it, excuse me. And then you knock it down to an operating levy, where it's just, you know, maintenance.
Probably have to hire somebody, right?
Maintenance.
Going forward, maybe?
Maintenance.
Full time?
For
In the road department? Sean, maybe?
No, we got Sean.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, super.
And Brian Bogus said he'd come clean the
Yeah.
bathroom. So we got that taken.
We got Bill too.
Probably would.
He's been putting up fences.
He's our resident fencer.
But that's my.
Yeah, you
my
prefer to work off of something new, get that going as opposed
Yeah,
to.
yeah, and then this property down here, you know, we retained the parcel for the parking and administration, fire and police if and when